My name's Jennifer, and great leaders are great learners. They stay open to new information and to the ideas of others, and they aren't afraid to experiment and make mistakes. Thank you for taking time to be a great learner today, to learn today about our UC Davis Executive Leadership Program. I am so thrilled that you are here this afternoon on this very, very hot, if you're in Sacramento. I think we're approaching 105 maybe today, August afternoon. So thank you for taking the time to learn more about our program. And so today we're going to talk about our UC Davis Executive Leadership Program. As I mentioned, my name's Jennifer Keller, and I am the Program Director for the UC Davis Executive Leadership Program. I also manage all of our leadership programs here at UC Davis Continuing and Professional Education. And I'm joined with my colleague, Bridget. Bridget, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Bridget Saragoza, and I am the Program Manager for the Executive Leadership Program. I'm here to answer any questions you might have, or through email or by phone, and my information is there on the screen. So welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Bridget. We're excited you're here. So we have a couple polls that we'd like to launch to learn a little bit more about you and who's on our session. So I think Bridget's going to launch our first poll, which is telling us a little bit about your organization type. So what best describes the organization, the type of organization you work for? Are you in a private sector, corporate, public sector, nonprofit, independent consultant, or other? And then once those kind of come in, Bridget will share with us how we looking so far.
Kind of tied between the private, public, and the nonprofit.
Okay.
So let me end this and I'll share the results.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, we have a good mix. All right, and then our next poll is just telling us a little bit about who you are in terms of your role in your organization. So what of these best describes your role? Are you at a C-suite level, senior manager, director, associate manager, director, manager, individual contributor, or the all-encompassing other?
Again, the senior manager, director,
great,
individual contributor as well.
Okay, good.
Some manager and other. So I'll go ahead and stop this and share the results.
Okay, great. So we have quite a good mix.
Right.
All right, well, I think you are all in the right place, and hopefully by the end of our session, you'll learn a little bit more about if this program is the right program for you. And then, of course, Bridget and I are here to answer questions. And so speaking of that, please feel free to use the Q&A box in the Zoom session to answer or ask, any questions. And Bridget will be kind of pausing throughout, and we'll be answering those live. And then we'll, at the very end of the session, we'll pop this slide back up so you can get our information and have that should you want to follow up with any other questions. So with that, let's talk about what are we going to cover today. So first, we're going to talk about why the UC Davis Executive Leadership Program. Why this one? What's the differentiator between this program and other executive leadership programs? Then the second question I'm going to answer is what can I expect to learn and who are the instructors? And we have a very special guest today, Diane Davidson, who will introduce herself at that time. And she's going to talk a little bit about some of the content in her class on organizational change. And then the third question we're going to cover is who can tell me about their experience in the program? And we have another very special guest, Paul Adams, one of our recent alumni of the spring program, who we have a few questions we're going to ask him, and who better to hear about the program than from an alumni. And then finally, we're going to just cover any other questions you might have and final logistics. So that is our plan for the afternoon. So with that, why the UC Davis Executive Leadership Program? We know there's a lot of competition out there in executive leadership programs, and we want to make sure you understand what differentiates our program from the other ones out there. This program is really designed for busy leaders. It is a Thursday evening from 1:30 to 8, so you're only missing a half day of work on that Thursday. Dinner and parking is provided, and I think dinner is known to be one of the favorite parts of the program because people really network, and I think there's just something about enjoying a meal together around tables and just sharing a meal, I think really brings bonds. And so that is, I think, one of the favorite parts of the program is dinner on Thursday nights. And then you come back Friday for a full day, and then we serve you lunch, and of course your parking's provided. So it's a back-to-back Thursday and Friday, and you can see the program dates there. So it's every other week beginning on September 26th. And so then that's really a great opportunity for you to kind of have time to absorb the content that you learned on that Thursday and Friday. You take a break, you come back, learn again, take a break, etc. And then our classes are located at a convenient downtown Sacramento location, which we're going to talk about a little bit more at the very end. Oftentimes people will ask, well, how much prep time do I need to do? What kind of reading is there, or preparation? So each of the classes has some type of pre-work. It's usually something that can be done within 1 to 2 hours kind of per week. Maybe it's an assessment that we're asking you to take. We'll talk a little bit about one of those assessments in a minute. It might be an article or a blog by one of our instructors. Many of our instructors are authors, so we may have you read one of their articles or a chapter out of their book, something like that. So it's really feasible. And then in between sessions, there are opportunities for you to practice what you've learned. So we give you kind of a takeaway assignment. So at this time, we have kind of another special poll that we want to ask, because we offer this program in 2 different formats. So this format that I just went over of the Thursdays and Fridays is the fall format. We also have a scheduling format in the spring where it's 8 Thursdays, 1:30 to p.m., 8 weeks in a row. And that's the format that Paul attended. And so we've been exploring or experimenting with ideas of potential other formats. So we would just love to hear from you. So Bridget's going to launch another poll. And you can select multiple of these, so you don't have to just pick one this time. Looking at these options, which schedule formats for our 8 sessions, so there's 8 course sessions, work best for your schedule? The first one is what we do in the spring, which is the weekly Thursday, 1:30 to 8 p.m. So you're missing half day every week for 8 weeks in a row. Bi-weekly, that's the one we're doing right now, Thursday, 1:30 to 8, coming back Friday. Bi-weekly, Friday, Saturday, so you're just missing all day Friday, but you have to miss a weekend day, come in on a Saturday. We have another coaching program that has that format that's been very successful. A boot camp, we often see this schedule with executive leadership programs where maybe it's a Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 4 p.m. for 2 consecutive weeks, or a weekly Friday day, 8:30 to 4 p.m. Of those, which ones, can be many, kind of do you think work for your busy schedule? We're really trying to explore what options there might be for this and appreciate your input. It's part of our market research, I guess you could say. How are we doing, Bridget?
We've got the weekly, the Thursdays 1:30 to 8, and kind of tied with the bi-weekly, the Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
So I will go ahead and now end it, and let's share these results.
Okay. A little all over the place, but it looks like the 2 options that we do offer are most preferable. Okay. Thank you for participating in our sort of curiosity question. And so getting back to this particular program is the Thursdays and Fridays, as you can see, and you can see the program dates there as well. So I mentioned an assessment, and this is one of the key components of this program is a 360-degree feedback assessment, and it's based on Kouzes and Posner's 5 Practices of Exemplary Leaders, and it's the Leadership Challenge is the book that they've written on this. And that was the quote at the very beginning was from Kouzes and Posner, a different book, but we're big fans of them, and the assessment really focuses on these 5 areas, and there's 30 items that you're rated on. And this is a really great opportunity to get confidential feedback from your direct reports and peers, and then you get feedback from your manager as well that is not confidential. So everything is confidential except for how your manager rates you. And then there's a few open-ended questions as well where your raters provide you feedback on what are things you can continue to do to be a great leader, should stop doing, should start doing. And this is really a great opportunity to focus on your development and then focus the areas where you want to grow. And we do this at the beginning of the program so that you have time throughout the program to work on those areas and really kind of hone in on the topics and the courses that maybe were highlighted as areas that you want to continue to grow your leadership. And one of the great things about this LPI assessment is that we pair it with coaching. And we really believe that when you receive a feedback like that, it can sometimes be eye-opening. To be honest with you, I have had 360-degree assessments. I think I've had 3 now and taken 3. And I'm a pretty self-aware leader, I would like to say. And yet each time I think, darn it, they know it too. They know those weaknesses I have. And so it can just be a little bit of a moment where you have to kind of reflect and process the feedback that you receive. So we believe it's really critical to pair that with coaching to support you in your growth. And so each participant has an individual coach where they get 2 coaching sessions. The first coaching session is in the beginning of the program after you receive your 360 report that really focuses on interpreting that report and the results. What do you make of this report? What do you want to do with that? And just to really talk through kind of your development. And then the second coaching session is at the very end of the program as sort of a, okay, and now what? And it's really open-ended based on what did you learn? What would you still like to talk about? The coaching sessions are really there for you. Many of the participants have said that this is one of the most impactful pieces of the program is their time with their coach. You can see I'm listed there as one of the 5 coaches. We're all certified coaches with various levels of certification and advanced degrees. So we're all very qualified to help you and walk through your assessment and provide you with coaching support. So that's a great component of the program that really differentiates us from other programs. So I'm going to just take a pause there, and Bridget, let's see if there's anything in the Q&A.
Nothing in the Q&A yet.
Okay. Thanks for popping back on. We love Bridget's face, her smiling face too. Okay, awesome. Well, please feel free to use the Q&A box if anything comes up. So I'm going to move and talk about the sessions, and then I'm going to introduce Diane. So our sessions, here are the 8 sessions that are in the program. So we start with the Leader as Communicator, and that is taught by Dr. Paul Porter. And then we pair it with the Leadership Practices to Increase Effectiveness. That is the class where you get the assessment, the 360-degree assessment, and the class is all focused around those 5 practices. The Leader as Communicator really focuses mainly on kind of expanding on situational leadership, as well as then a large component on having fierce conversations. So then you get your assessment, walk through that, you learn about the 5 practices. Then we have a course on Leading as Coach with Michelle Payne. And Michelle is a master certified coach, she's in the top 10% of her field. And she really walks through, what does it mean to be a coach? There's been a lot of research recently on kind of the coach approach or leaders as coaches. And in fact, Gallup just came out with a new book called It's the Manager. And in that book, they talk about how the culture of leadership has shifted from boss to coach, and how really employees want to be coached. And so Michelle walks through that. What does that look like? How can you listen better? What powerful questions can you ask? How can you give direct feedback, which then goes right back into the fierce conversations? And then we have Leading Change with Diane Davidson. I'm going to hold on talking about her because I'm going to introduce her in a minute. But that course, she's going to give you a preview as well of the content. So I'm going to hold on to saying too much about that. And then we have a course on leading innovation, which is taught by Christine Folk. And Christine recently worked at the VSP Innovation Lab. She has quite the credentials in innovation, Six Sigma, lean improvement, process efficiencies. And she really walks through some content around getting to root cause. What are the 5 whys that you can ask to get to the root cause of something? Then we have a class on emotional intelligence, which is taught by a renowned Mitchell Adler, who is a psychiatrist and also has his own psychology practice. He's one of the key experts in emotional intelligence, and we're really privileged to have him as a part of the program because he only teaches with select organizations, and we are privileged that he has selected us as one of those organizations to teach the class with. And he really delves deep into self-awareness, being more aware of your own emotions as well as the emotions of others. And then Elizabeth Doty comes. She comes from the Bay Area. She owns her own organization called Leadership Momentum. And she teaches a class on values, commitments, and organizational momentum. And I love her mantra is fewer, better commitments. And she really walks through a model of how can you get to greater momentum with fewer, better commitments. And people have said that that class is really practical. They walk away with some great tools in that class. And then we wrap it up with a real-world case study taught by Janice Thompson, and walks through a case study and some small group discussion and kind of rounds out the whole program. So those are our 8 sessions. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to introduce Diane and then turn it over to her, and she's going to talk through a little bit of her content, and we're kind of asking a question that you can answer in the chat box, a current change your organization is experiencing. But Diane Davidson, she lives in Roseville, and she's enjoyed working in the development of individuals, leaders, and teams for over 30 years. She does public speaking, professional training, and coaching. She's worked with a wide variety of organizations and multinational regional companies such as SMUD, City of Yuba City, University of Phoenix, many organizations in private and public sector. She was a leader in commercial production, banking and healthcare industries, where she was responsible for program development, curriculum design, change leadership, employee engagement, facilitating training topics in a wide range of leadership topics. She truly is an expert. And she is really effective as a facilitator and coach, where she has a tremendous amount of knowledge of adult learning, which creates such an engaging and educational environment that I have experienced myself. She is also a professional entertainer, producer, and recording artist, which everybody loves and probably asks you to sing in class, Diane, would be my guess. So she specializes, she's really specializes in creating an engaging and educational environment. And I'm so thrilled that she is here to walk you through a little bit of her content. So Diane, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Bridget. I just love you guys and appreciate what you do so much. You've pulled together a very comprehensive program here, and I'm really honored to be a part of it, as a part of all the great instructors that are in this program. You know, I wanted to just point out too that you have a beautiful new facility that I just visited in Old Sacramento, and that's just a beautiful place, and I'm excited to do these programs there. I, as Jennifer said, teach the class called Leading Change. And I've worked with a lot of organizations from the C-suite all the way to line employees. And what we're noticing is that people are experiencing change faster and more furious than ever before. And we kind of have a challenge with that change. So I've done a lot of research with thought leaders like Carrie Patterson, Joseph Granny, William Bridges, and John Cotter, and put together a program called Leading Change. And one of the first things that we do in this program is understand the difference between change and transition, and how change impacts people, how they're affected, specifically how people resist change. You know, we may know that we need to make a change. We may even know what the plan is for the change, but we might resist it ourselves. And certainly people who whose idea the change was not are going to resist the change. If we're excited about the change, or if it's something that could be a negative experience, there's some sort of resistance that happens. So today I'd like to share with you a little bit about what that is. And in the class, the idea or the end in mind with the class is that you will be able to leave this class and know how to not only implement change, but how to accelerate it and sustain it in your organization. So there is so much change going on. I was working, I do some group coaching with an executive team, and this particular team was focusing on trust. And that was one of the changes that they were trying to implement, because they had 3 new leaders on the executive team, and they were working on getting to know each other and learning how to trust each other. And, you know, one of the people in the meeting said, you know, I think it's just going to take some time. And someone else said, we don't have time. We need to be able to do this right here and right now. And it just made me think about Andy Warhol and something that he said. He said, you know, some people say time changes things, but you actually have to change it yourself. So that's what this class is about, is how can you communicate change in your organization and sustain it and become more adaptable and agile, and how you can do that. So let's go ahead and take a poll. I'd like for you to say, what are some of the current changes you're experiencing? Some of the organizations that I work with are they're having changes like strategy. They have a new vision, new values, new IT systems, acquisitions and mergers, reorgs. A lot of people are working on succession planning, where we have a new generation coming into the workforce and preparing them for leadership roles. We're having to hire talent in a highly competitive market right now. Some change might be we're training people. We've got a new boss, new team members. So go ahead and let's see what we have in the chat box now. What are some of the changes that your organization is experiencing? What do we have, Bridget?
We have kind of what you mentioned, growth and culture shift, all IT reorganization, major focus on security and transition from on-site to cloud.
Mm-hmm.
New COO and CFO.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. That's a lot of change going on there. Yeah, the whole IT, the whole technology thing is kind of scary. I mean, how often do you get that little notice on your iPhone that says, you know, it's time for an update, and you're like, no, I don't want to accept it because it's going to change where my pictures go in my phone, you know, or I know I've experienced my Wi-Fi being down when I have to have some work done for the day. You know, what do we do and how do we handle that change? So let's go to the next slide. I'd like to share with you that we have reactive patterns to change. And I want to share this idea with you because when we're changing, when something's changing for us, we're going from being knowledgeable and competent in an old, say, IT system, for example. And when the new system comes on board, we feel incompetent. Right? Or if there was a new leader we were comfortable with and knew the leader and the way they would respond and the way they would lead, but it's a little scary knowing that there's a new leader that you don't know. Some people start to question, am I going to be around with this new leader? Am I going to like this new leader? So people are resisting, if you will, their competence or knowledge of something. They knew it in the past, but they don't know what it's going to be in the future. So this loss that they feel of competence makes us feel, it makes us stop in our tracks. You know, we just don't know what we're going to do. So if we think about loss of like a loved one, what we're experiencing is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's model. So I want to walk you through this. So if you notice on this graph, at the beginning, there's resistance of that change. There's immobilization. You just stop in your tracks. There's denial. We're not really going to move to this new system, or I don't really have to do succession planning. And then there might be some anger involved. I've heard people say, I've been in this organization for so many years and I've seen things come and go. Believe me, this is the flavor of the month. And I'm not going to do whatever they asked me to do. Then there's bargaining. People move ahead and they start looking at workarounds. How can I work around this system? How can I work around this new person in the organization? And then it hits you full on that the change is moving forward, and then you get depressed. And at this point, you're behind because other people have jumped on board and are actually moving through that change. Then what we do is we start to explore, see how can I make this work for me, and then finally we accept that change. So let's go to the next slide. William Bridges, with this in mind, says that we actually go through 3 phases of transition. The first phase is that ending, losing, or letting go of the old way, losing that competence. Then there's the neutral zone, which you can see is a rather large zone. And in this zone, people are going in different directions. Some people have been trained, some people haven't. Some people have been to meetings, some people haven't. And then as you move along time on the bottom, that new beginning starts to emerge. And if you take a slice of this at any point, you notice that there's ending, losing, letting go, the neutral zone, and the new beginning happening simultaneously. So people are in different phases of transition as they move through change. So we need to learn how to manage this transition. We need to make it the new normal. That ending, losing, letting go, neutral zone, and the new beginning is going to be constantly happening in our organizations. And we need to be able to recognize it when we're not managing that transition very well. So transition is actually something that takes place inside a person. Change happens external, but transition is what happens on the inside. It takes time. It's different for everybody. We all experience it differently. So the first one that we experience is guilt. And you'll see this a lot with managers, coming to a team meeting and saying, oh, I'm so sorry, you guys, we've got a new process in place. It's going to be a little bit of a hassle, but you'll get through it. They feel bad that they have to impose that on their people. Then the next one is resentment. I've seen this a lot in healthcare, physicians having to move to electronic health record. They resent it because they got into the business to help people, and now they're sitting in front of a computer screen all day long. Next is anxiety. People just can't keep up. We start to see people calling in sick. They're not feeling well. They just can't face another day. The next one is fear, and we can lose people when there's this fear of the unknown. Then self-absorption is where people feel like they're the only ones that are actually feeling this way about the change. And then finally, stress. So when we see stress, attitudes change, energy drains, and people call in sick. So if you look at these patterns, we're going to take another poll. What reactive patterns have you seen in yourself or in others as you've rolled out change in your organization? I mean, I guarantee you there's change going on right now. Which ones of these reactive patterns have you seen? Go ahead and plug that in.
A lot of anxiety and stress.
Okay.
Resentment.
Yep. All right, so here's the thing. Go ahead and let's
Okay.
see what it is. Yeah, and the anxiety. Yeah, it all starts to build up, and it does get very stressful. So as leaders, a lot of times we think about change as a project that we need to implement, but we don't really think about the people side of it. So in this program, we're going to focus on how we can communicate our vision to inspire people, knowing that these are some of the patterns and feelings that they have. We're going to learn how to motivate people and move them through that neutral zone faster and get them closer to that new beginning sooner. We'll talk about what are some potential barriers that we experience and how we can remove those barriers, and then ultimately how we can celebrate success. So the cool thing about this program that Jennifer mentioned earlier is that we're going to do real live application of this. So in this class, you're going to be able to talk about the exact changes that are going on and go back with an integrated action plan on how you're going to help move change through your organization. So I hope you'll join me. I hope that you'll enroll in the program and we'll get to work together. One of the reasons that I teach is I like to hear how people are using their skills and hear about their successful results. So I can't wait to see how you apply your learning in this and how you can achieve your best results. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, for providing that wonderful overview in such a brief time. You covered a lot. So imagine what you get with 6 hours of instruction with Diane. You will learn a lot. So thank you so much for being here, Diane. Diane mentioned just there at the end about like a practical action plan, and each of the classes has something to that effect. And so you really are walking away with practical tools that you can take back immediately into your organization. So that is one thing that also differentiates us. All right, well, we're going to transition now to the question, answering the question, who can tell me more about their experience in the program? And there is no better person to tell you about their experience than an alumni. So I am thrilled that Paul Adams is here with us today. Hi, Paul.
Good afternoon.
Oh, good. Paul's on camera too.
And I'm
Yay.
wearing my 105-degree weather business suit.
I know. I think we're all a little casual today. I was realizing when I got up this morning, I thought, oh, I should put on like a jacket and I thought, no, it's gonna be 105. So here we are. Well, so Paul is the Director of Corporate Support at Capital Public Radio, and he's been in that role since 2012. And he was a recent alumni with our program in the spring. And I'm so happy that he has joined us. And I have just a few questions that I'm going to ask Paul. And so, and then we also, I don't know if we told you this, Paul, but we're going to open it for Q&A.
All right.
See if anyone has a zinger that they might be able to ask you.
Okay.
All right. So an open Q&A, meaning by the Q&A box, everybody. So, okay. So first question is, what brought you to the Executive Leadership Program?
Oh, I guess I've been a leader for a long time. I've been a sales manager for many, many years. And I just felt that I just needed more tools. And we have a Cap Radio is an amazing place to work. And I was really looking for tools to actually, more importantly, help me with my coworkers, my peers, and actually my upper management. I felt pretty comfortable with my relationship with my direct reports, but the LPI tells otherwise. And so I was just really looking for tools to help me, and I found them right away.
Oh, that's great. And so what was most valuable for you? What of those tools did you find most valuable?
There's so many. And, I'm not getting paid to do this, but I'm honored to do this. I was engaged with day one. And I was really impressed with how each of these instructors really held us to task. There was not a lot of wasted time at all. And they really showed how much they cared about us in the class. And we had a very diverse class. Everyone was special. Probably the self-awareness was the first one that kind of, hit me between the eyes. As you guys do the self-awareness, I'm pretty proud of myself and I like myself a lot. And I found that not everybody sees me the same way I do. And that was eye-opening and such a powerful tool that that was incredible to me. Working with my coach, Sharon, she was just incredible as well, holding me accountable. The one class on innovation, and I didn't quite understand the topic, but really it's about innovative ways of dealing with change. And sometimes change is really, really difficult. Sometimes change happens when you don't want it to happen. And that was just an incredible tool. And I applied this to my business instantaneously. It was like a living project where I was sharing week to week what was happening with what I was dealing with at work and sharing with my classmates.
Oh, I love that. I love what you said about like the self-awareness piece and the assessment as far as, I think sometimes, you know, we know our own intentions and we're nice people and we're good people and we think that everyone sees our intentions, but they don't always see our intentions, right? And sometimes our behaviors might not always match, so.
Well, and if we're leaders today, that means we had to have some skill sets that advanced us somewhere up the professional ladder.
Yeah.
And sometimes we've done it with a lot of tools, and sometimes we've have some natural ability or luck. But having this class was just incredible to really look at myself and see.
Mm-hmm. And this question wasn't on one of my prepared questions, but something you said made me want to ask you. You mentioned a diverse class. So tell me more about the relationships you formed in the program.
It was great. You know, I come from, there's many of us in the nonprofit space, but probably being Capital Public Radio is its own unique nonprofit in that we're a large media company. Mm-hmm. But there was manufacturing, there was public organizations, there was technology, and everybody brought something different. Mm-hmm. And once you broke into your small group sessions, you had varieties of perspectives and a vocalist.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We had a participant who gave us singing. You actually weren't privileged to have Diane is in our fall program, but Diane is a professional singer. She and Max probably could have gone to bat with each other. Yes. And what Paul just said also triggered in my mind, there's a lot of interactivity in the classes, small group discussions. The instructors are really make sure that the classes are engaging so that you're working with peers and colleagues to learn from each other as much as you're learning from the instructors. So tell me, Paul, kind of our last question, how has this made an impact on your leadership or your organization?
Well, it works both ways. With my peer groups, there's multiple people in the organization who have the same level, but in different departments. And, you know, I've kind of grown up being pretty direct and pretty overly confident, and I'm realizing that always doesn't work. Mm. And so really being intentional about listening. You know, one of the best, the one lesson I learned was that decisions aren't made when everybody isn't in the room. It is so, that one was just like, holy cow. And so when we're dealing with difficult topics, I'm just much better prepared to hold my coworkers accountable to making sure that the process is effective and efficient. I've gotten tons of compliments. Somebody actually called me a Zen-like person, and if you know me, that's not usually it's not obvious. My employees, I have a diverse sales team, and our interactions are much better. I'm a much better listener. Mm-hmm. I listen with intent. I'm able to be strategic in my responses. We just finished the best year ever, and we're already on pace to exceed those new higher budgets we earned because of that performance. I can't speak highly enough about it. Sorry.
Oh, Paul, that's fantastic. Thank you. And I really did not pay him. He is here of his own generous will. And we are so grateful that you took time out of your day to be here, especially on a hot Thursday afternoon.
I'm honored to be here.
Bridget, are there any questions that came in through the Q&A?
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Bridget.
So there is one question. How applicable is this for a company, mid-sized, 50 to 100 employees, privately held company, CEO/president?
That to me?
Let's see, it could be to anybody. So read it again, Bridget,
So
either of us.
yeah, how applicable is this for a company mid-sized 50 to 100 employees, privately held company, CEO/president?
Okay, so I'll start, and then Paul, you can pop in too if
Okay.
you have any thoughts. So I'll kind of talk from the program design, and then you can jump in, Paul. But we really try to design the program so that it is applicable to kind of leaders of all sizes of organizations. In fact, in this last program, we even had a couple of independent consultants who were there that are kind of like doing nonprofits on the side of their regular day jobs. We have people that are with very small organizations, 20 to 25 people, all the way to very large state agencies. So really, I think the way I view it in terms of learning and applicability is you're going to maybe get something different out of it than, say, Paul would or that Bridget would, based on what your role is in your organization. But I guarantee you will take something away that will help impact your leadership. Paul, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, we kind of fit that model. Capital Public Radio is about 75 employees now, and we're a very collegial, collaborative organization. That means that we have broad diversity of skill sets, career paths, things of that nature, and it really helped me up and down, both working, being able to have frank conversations with my superiors about my future and what does growth look like in the organization. And I'm not sure if I could have done that before. I think it's certainly beneficial that. And I've encouraged my peers to join the program. I don't know if they're on the call today, but the more the merrier. I feel like I'm much better equipped to help my team. And also, I think, again, from that diversity standpoint, in those small groups, sometimes you're listening, sometimes you're sharing, and having the ability to hear from other industries and how they would approach a problem or a challenge and how that can be applicable to your world that you may not have heard otherwise.
Yeah.
And vice versa, having the ability to say, well, you thought about it this way. And if I in my world, this is how I would approach that. And I think that was, super beneficial for many of the people in the group.
That's great. Anything else, Bridget, come in the Q&A?
No questions. That was one. No others.
Okay. Well, thank you, Paul, for being here. It's great to see you again.
All right. Good luck,
All
everybody.
right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. So our final what if I still have questions?
We have one question.
Oh, we do have another question. Okay.
So will trainees be required to complete an individual or group project?
Oh, good question. That's a great question. No, we do not include a project as part of this program. What we do is we have individually at the end of each class, my role as the program director, I'm there as part of the program, kind of facilitating each class to ensure it's a cohesive program. So at the end of each program, I give you an assignment. So you could call that a mini project. It might be something like after the Fierce Conversations topic to go practice having a fierce conversation. So we have a little worksheet and a little guidance on how to do that. And then in the next class, I hold you accountable. And we talk about okay, how did that go for you? And you talk about it in your small groups. So we have little mini projects that are individualized at the end, but there's not an overall group team project. Because everybody works for different organizations, it's hard to connect. So we don't have that.
Okay.
Great.
No other questions.
Okay, well, we'll have one more opportunity here after we review the final logistics. So the tuition for the program is $62.50, which includes all the materials, the instruction, the 360-degree assessment, one-on-one coaching, all the meals, the parking. It's all inclusive. There is a $300 early enrollment discount if you pay by the 22nd, which is 1 week from today. So we are already filling. I will say we had an information session about a month ago. This is our second information session, so we already have received applications and enrollments, and so you'll want to get in that to get that early enrollment discount. And then the enrollment deadline is September 10th, which is also coming up. We do typically fill our programs, so you'll want to get in on that. Bridget, is there anything else on logistics that you want to share?
Just that if you have any questions, regarding, your enrollment or any questions regarding the program, I am always, you're able to contact me through the phone or through email, and we can always work it through. If there's maybe something that student services can also help you with, I can connect you with them as well.
Bridget is amazing. So Bridget handles pretty much everything related to the program. She ensures it runs smoothly in every aspect. So I am full confidence she can ask and answer any questions.
Which, speaking of questions, we have one.
Okay.
Will UC Davis offer any online version of these leadership classes / programs?
Oh, I love that question. I love that question because that has been on my mind for years. I am hoping so. I am hoping that we can start to move to some courses that are hybrid, where maybe you do an online portion ahead of time and then come to a class. We've gotten some kind of feedback and research that people still really do prefer the in-person for leadership because of the discussions and the role plays and the conversations, but it is something that we're looking at exploring. However, we do have an online component of this course. Bridget, do you want to talk about the Canvas site that we use for this?
Sure. So we do have a kind of like extended classroom. It's called Canvas. And so everything that, any pre-work you might have, or being able to view any of the slides from the past classes, you will be able to find all that online, as well as discussions with other classmates, or if we have announcements, that's what we would use as that platform. Also, any references for books or anything maybe the instructor might have for you, that will be all located in one spot. So it's very convenient, because if you didn't have it with you, if there was a handout, you would be able to get it online. So it's been very helpful, and you're also able to even communicate with other students in the class as well.
Great. So Diane mentioned in her introduction that we have a new facility, and we're really excited about this. So we are now holding our courses at One Capitol Mall. And One Capitol Mall is located in downtown Sacramento, next to the Tower Bridge in Old Sacramento. We're on the second floor there of that building. It's convenient parking underneath the building. We give you all the instructions and all that good stuff. There's lots of things around if you're traveling or know colleagues that are traveling. There's a hotel right next door, the Embassy Suites, that we're working on a contract with them as well. So lots of options there. One of the rooms even has a view of the Capitol that we're going to fight really hard to get, right, Bridget?
Yes. Beautiful building. Beautiful building.
We might have to arm wrestle some colleagues, but we'll see what we can do. I am going to end us with a quote, unless are there any other questions that have come through?
No questions. And I just want to say, if there is any questions that maybe you think of, after we end this info session, if you can put our information back up.
I will.
And again, you can always reach me with any questions that maybe come up after this, and I'll be more than happy to answer those for you.
Great. So I just wanted to end with a quote from one of my favorite authors and speakers, Brene Brown, and then I will put our information up and one more time and we'll end the session. So Brene Brown, in her book, Dare to Lead, says, "We desperately need more leaders who are committed to courageous, wholehearted leadership and who are self-aware enough to lead from their hearts rather than unevolved leaders who lead from hurt and fear." And that's really encompasses our mission for this program. We're committed to helping you become more courageous, more wholehearted, more self-aware, leading from your heart and becoming a more effective leader. And that's truly our mission. So we hope to see you in class. here's our contact information one more time before Bridget ends us, and we're here to answer any questions for you via email or phone. So take care and stay cool in this heat.